In 2026, a doorway opens, a gateway into the heart of biblical prophecy, and the world is invited. This July 8th through 11th, 2026 in St. Louis, Missouri, the Eschatology of the Prophets Gateway Conference brings together some of the most respected voices in fulfilled prophecy studies, featuring Dr. Don K. Preston, Dr. William Bell Jr., Zach Davis, Pastor Michael Miano, Tim Martin, Pastor Steve Magua, and more guest speakers to be announced. 4 days of revelation, 4 days of powerful teaching, 4 days that will reshape how you understand the prophets from Genesis to Revelation. Only 100 tickets are available, and when they're gone, they're gone. Secure your spot today at www.thewellchurchstl.com/events. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Step through the gateway. More information is available at www.beyondcreationscience.com. July 8th through 11th, 2026, St. Louis, Missouri, the Gateway Conference. Enter the conversation. Experience the revelation.
All right, we are back again, and we want to immediately continue. We are refuting the idea that full preterism is a heresy, and I am proving that full preterism is the biblically sound position to hold pertaining to eschatology. Do me a favor as we watch the next few moments of this clip by our brother Sean, who is going through his reasons why he believes that full preterism is false, and I'm refuting it biblically. Please share, please tag somebody, please invite others to be part of the conversation. So here we go again with Sean. Let's hear what he has to say as we continue to examine his claim.
Jesus said. Reason number 6. In verse 22, Jesus said that if he didn't shorten that great tribulation time, then nobody on earth would survive. But he didn't return and stop anything during that war in 70 AD. Reason number 7.
So Sean says in Matthew 24:22, Jesus said that if God did not shorten the days of the tribulation, no flesh, no one would be saved in the whole planet Earth. Now, Mr. Sean, nowhere does Jesus say no one will be saved on the planet Earth. Rather, the context itself already establishes that Jesus is speaking about the events that were going to surround the destruction of the temple. Matthew 24, verse number 1 and 2. The disciples asked him in verse number 3, tell us, when will this happen? What will be your sign of coming to execute that judgment that was going to destroy the temple and the end of the age? So in Matthew 24:21, which we handled in the previous objection, he said there will be a great tribulation in Israel, in Judea, in Zion, such as has never been. And Daniel confirms this, that this was to happen before the sacrificial system ended. But more than that, in Matthew 24:22, which I'm going now to bring up, it tells you who he's talking about in the text. Look at this. Matthew 24, it says, and if those days had not been cut short, no human being would be saved. It doesn't tell you no human being where. You would have to find that in the context. No human being where? Well, let's find out. In verse number 15, it says, so when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel, standing in the holy place, let the reader understand, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. So now, if the Great Tribulation is happening all over the globe, doesn't it sound rather selfish of Jesus to only warn people in Judea to flee? Because if it's happening all over the universe, what does it matter where you flee from or where you flee to? Rather, Matthew 24, verse number 16 establishes that the Great Tribulation is happening, or it is centered around Judea. And therefore, when he says no human being would be saved, it is no human being would be saved in Judea. In fact, Josephus, the historian, tells us that the carnage and the loss of life was so extraordinary, so extensive in 70 AD, that out of a possible 2.5 million inhabitants of Jerusalem at the time of the Passover, only 97,000 were left alive. So in other words, if God had allowed the siege of Jerusalem to continue beyond the 5 months which it took, no one would have been left alive. More than that, the statement that no human being would be saved in Matthew 24:22 has a context. It is actually derived out of Deuteronomy chapter number 32, which again I suspect you had not known is connected to the prophecy, Mr. Sean. So in Deuteronomy 32, Moses is prophesying to Israel, and he says to Israel in verse 5, they have dealt corruptly with him, they are no longer his children, which we find in John chapter 1. He came to his own did not receive him, but as many as did receive him, as many as did believe on his name, he gave them the right to become his children. So Moses is prophesying about the last generation of Israel. Now he says something very interesting here in Deuteronomy 32, and I'm going to pick it up at verse number 19. It says, let's begin at verse 18. So it says, you are unmindful of the rock that bore you, you forgot the God that gave you birth. The Lord saw it and spanned them because of the provocation of his sons and daughters, that the Israelites. He said, I will hide my face from them, I will see what their end will be. For they are a perverse generation. Note that is the same exact words that are used by Jesus and the apostles about the generation in 70 AD. They are a perverse generation, children in whom there is no faithfulness. I wonder, will there be faithfulness when I come? Jesus says, they have made me jealous with what is not God. They have provoked me to anger with their idols. So I will make them jealous with those who are not people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. For a fire is kindled by my anger. It burns to the depth of Sheol. It devours the earth, that is the Eretz, the land of Israel, and its increase. It sets on fire the foundations of the mountains, that's their authority structures. I will heap disasters on them, that is the Israelites. I will spend my arrows on them, that is the Israelites. They shall be wasted with hunger. They shall be devoured by plague. These are the terms of Matthew 24. And poisonous pestilence. I will send the teeth of beasts against them. The venom of things that crawl in the dust, that is scorpions. Outdoors the sword will bereave, the sword will bereave. Indoors there will be terror for young men and women alike, nursing child and the men of gray hairs. I would have said, now watch this carefully, I will cut them to pieces. I will wipe them from. He's still speaking about Israel. This is the source of Matthew 24:22. If those days had not been cut short, no flesh would be saved. That is in Israel, based on Deuteronomy 32. Had I not feared the provocation by the enemy, lest their adversary should misunderstand, let's say, should say, our hand is triumphant, it was not the Lord who did all this. For they are a nation without void of counsel. There is no understanding in them. If they were wise, they would understand this. They would discern their latter end. So Moses is the one who originally prophesied about the great tribulation of Israel. The great tribulation throughout the Bible is always Israel-centric. Israel-centered. That's what Matthew 24 is about. Matthew 24 is not about your future. Matthew 24 is not about the planet. Matthew 24 is about the things that were to happen to the nation of Israel at the end of its old covenant sacrificial system, which ended in 70 AD. Next, we have more from Sean. But before we go on there, JTEX, welcome back. JTEX says, Isaiah 66:19, I will set a sign among them, and those among them who escape I will send to the nations. Do you think this is the same sign of Luke 11:29? Do you think this is the same sign of Luke 11:29? Let me look at Luke 11:29 real quick because I don't have it on my fingertips, JTEX. But I would suspect just right off of the top of my head that it is, but I want to make sure. Luke 11:29, you say, can you look at that? And indeed, Isaiah 66 must be re-examined if anyone wants to understand the end. So in Luke 11:29, he says, then as he said these things, a woman in the crowd raised her voice and said, blessed is the womb that bore you, and the breast at which you nursed. But he said, blessed rather are those who hear the word of God and keep it. When the crowds were increasing, he began to say, this generation is an evil generation. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. If you remember when I was talking about it earlier, I said when I alluded to Isaiah 66, I said the sign in Isaiah 66:19 is the sign of the cross. It is the cross. It is the cross and the associated resurrection. That is the sign that God set amongst them. So yes, to that question. All right. Now back to Sean. Back to Sean. I want to finish Sean up today. I want to cook him, put a fork in him before we are done here. So let's go to Sean. Let's hear what else he has to say. We are almost there. We only have 3 minutes left. All right. So here we go. Sean.
During that war in 70 AD. Reason number 7, in verses 23 and 24, Jesus said there would be false Christs and false prophets doing signs and wonders that were so convincing that even the elect might be fooled by them. But we have no record of such things happening in 70 AD.
It is quite clear to me. And by the way, guys, do tell me. Let me actually check it out. Okay. I just wanted to confirm that the audio is coming through for Sean. Now, it is quite clear to me, with all due respect to Mr. Sean, that Sean has actually not even attempted to do any reasonable amount of study on this topic. Because if he had, at the very least, because one of the things that I've learned from my friend Tim Martin is that if you're going to refute somebody, if you're going to fight against somebody, at least familiarize yourself with their argument and their lines of evidence. But Sean is refuting full preterism, saying, we have not seen that. He doesn't even know if we have any evidence that we present as evidence that these things happened. Now, it's just sad. So now watch this. Welcome, Apostle PK. So notice what happens here in Matthew 24. In Matthew 24, Jesus says in verse number 24, for false Christs and false prophets will arise and perform great signs and wonders, so as to lead astray, if possible, even the elect. Now, for this one, to prove this one, I would not even need external biblical evidence. I will just use the Bible. Were there false prophets and false teachers who are performing great signs and wonders so as to lead the elect before 70 AD and after the ascension of Christ? Let's begin in Acts chapter 8. Let us begin in Acts chapter 8. So I'm going to use the Bible only to prove this. So Acts chapter 8. Sean, really, honestly, like seriously, you're not being serious, because this is in the Bible. In Acts chapter 8, we are told Simon the magician. But there was a man named Simon who had previously practiced magic in the city and amazed the people of Samaria, saying that he himself was somebody great. They all paid attention to him, from least to greatest, saying, this man is the power of God that is called the Great. And they paid attention to him because For a long time, he had amazed them with his magic. So, was this person trying to confuse the elect? Were they amazed? Yes. So, biblical evidence. Jeff Cunningham, you're welcome to the conversation. Hopefully, you have done more homework than the guy we are examining, because the guy we are examining has not done any of his homework. Jeff Cunningham, I'm sure you are aware that the Bible says that there were false prophets that were performing extraordinary signs and wonders before 70 AD. Would you at the very least agree with that, even if you don't agree that, even if you claim that we are one of the worst heresies? Here's Jeff Cunningham. He says, of course, absolutely, full preterism is one of the worst heresies. All right. Bring it, brother. Bring your evidence. Bring your biblical evidence. Now, let's go on. I hope that Jeff is not speaking just in the air. So when you go over here to the book of 2 Corinthians, what does Paul say in chapter 11? Let's see. False prophets, signs, wonders, and all that. So Paul says, Paul and the false apostles. He says, I wish you would bear with me a little foolishness. Do bear with me, for I feel a divine jealousy for you, since I betrothed you to one husband to present you as a pure virgin to Christ. But I am afraid that as the serpent deceived Eve, your thoughts will be led astray from a sincere and pure devotion to Christ. For if someone comes and proclaims another Jesus than the one we proclaimed, or if you received a different spirit than one you received, or if you accept a different gospel, we put up with it readily. Indeed, I consider that I'm not in the least inferior to these super apostles. Even if I'm unskilled in speaking, I'm not so in knowledge. So he says, let me just keep to the verse here. He says, and what I'm doing, I will continue to do in order to undermine the claim of those who would like to claim that in their boasted mission they work on the same terms as we do. For such men are, not will be, are false apostles, deceitful workmen, disguising themselves as the apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. So it is not surprise if his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness. Their end will correspond to their deeds. So Paul is saying this is happening. The false apostles are here. Not only Paul, what about John? 1 John chapter number 2. I mean, these guys have not studied their Bible. 1 John chapter number 2 verse 18. Let's see. Remember what Sean has claimed before we read it. Sean has claimed that in Matthew 24 verse 24 has not yet happened. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and perform great signs and wonders, so as to lead astray, if possible, even the elect. So Sean says, and Jeff, I'm assuming you are supporting Sean in saying, this has never happened. Here is Sean, by the way, just so we can give him his own voice. Let's hear what Sean has to say.
Stop anything during that war in 70 AD. Reason number 7, in verses 23 and 24, Jesus said there would be false Christs and false prophets doing signs and wonders that were so convincing that even the elect might be fooled by them. But we have no record of such things happening in 70 AD.
Really? Oh, really? Okay, we have a false prophet in the Bible. According to Sean, we have no record of such thing happening before 70 AD. Look at what John says. Where are you, John? Where is John at? John. I need you, John. I need you to show up right now, John. I thought I had put it up here. For some reason, I'm not finding it. I will find it again. For some reason, I might have clicked off on it. I don't know what I did with it. Anyway, 1 John chapter 2. Sean claims that there is no record of this, although Paul has told us they were there. The book of Acts tells us they were there. But here in verse number 18, we are told, children, John writes, it is the last hour. And as you have heard that Antichrist is coming, so now many Antichrists have come. Therefore, we, the apostles, know it is the last hour. Ho, ho, ho. Whoa. Now, Jeff, do you agree that Sean is wrong? Do you agree that Sean is wrong by saying there is no record that there were false Christs and false prophets in the first century? Jeff Cunningham, I know you. So I know you know Josephus wrote about the Egyptian false prophet who came with many signs and wonders. He wrote about many pretended oracles of God's word that were seen at that time. So there is enough record both in the Bible and outside of the Bible that before 70 AD, which is what full preterism claims, they are recorded in the Bible and outside the Bible. So Jeff, you say, no, there were false prophets then and now. So, but did you listen to what Sean said? Jeff, don't be daft, man. Don't be daft. I asked you, do you agree that Sean is wrong by saying there is no record of false prophets before 70 AD? Do you agree that with Sean? You have to say, no, I don't agree with Sean. Sean is wrong. See, right now, you happen to come into a conversation, Jeff. It's okay for you to join the conversation, but if you want to bring your own refutations, make a video. I will refute it. I'm dealing with Sean right now. You make your video. So you are coming and say, well, so are you. You make your video, send a link to me, Jeff. I will refute you using the Bible, and I will show that you don't know what you're talking about, and you need to sit down and be taught. I know your distractions. You're not going to distract me. I'm busy right now. I'm like Nehemiah. I will not come down to discuss your distractions because that's what you want to do. Make a video or send me a written thesis of what you're saying. Let's talk about it then. This is not your time, brother. This is your time to listen to what your compatriot Sean is trying to say. All right, let's get back to Sean. So Sean continues to say,
reason number 8. In verse 27, Jesus said that his return would be like lightning in the sky from the east to the west, and everyone would see him. This would have been a huge event, but we have no records of this happening ever. So
Again, this man has done absolutely no homework. Jeff Cunningham, if you truly do want to have a discussion with me, why don't you come when I'm not dealing with Sean? Why don't you show your maturity? Because I hope you're a mature man. Show your maturity by saying, I want to debate the restoration. Because now you are bringing up a distraction. You want us to discuss the restoration when we are dealing with Matthew 24 here. Show maturity, bro. Show maturity. I don't mind debating you. I don't mind dealing with you. I just want to do things in order. So anyway, this guy says that in Matthew chapter number 24 and Revelation, now he references Revelation here. He says in Matthew 24 and verse number 27, he says, for as the lightning comes from the east and shines as far as the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. And he couples that with Revelation chapter 1 verse 7. He couples that with Revelation 1:7. And in Revelation 1:7, he reads and says, behold, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him, even those who pierced him, and all the tribes of the earth will wail on account of him. So he says, that has never happened. Nobody has ever seen that. We don't have a record of that. Number one, Sean, and every futurist who has not read your Bible and wants to come here and tell me, you don't know your God's word. What does it say in Revelation 1:7? Let's begin there. What does it actually say? Who will see him? Let's read. Behold, he is coming with the clouds. In fact, that's written in Matthew 24. So I agree. This has to do with Matthew 24. And every eye will see him. Every eye where? Every eye where? Does it say every eye on the planet? Does it say every eye in the galaxy? Does it say every eye in all the galaxies? Doesn't. Just say every eye. So in order to figure out which are the every eye, you have to keep reading. Simple comprehension. Simple reading. Like simple grammatical reading. Look, every eye will see him, even those who pierced him. Well, okay. So who pierced him? Because the eyes that must see him must include those who pierced him. So Jeff, who pierced him? Jeff, who pierced Jesus? Did you pierce Jesus, Jeff? Did Russians pierce Jesus? Did future earthlings pierce Jesus? Come on. Come on. You say that didn't happen. That didn't happen in the first century. I'm not a full preterist. I'm not a futurist or whatever you are. Who pierced Jesus? Simple question. Who pierced Jesus? Intellectual honesty is an entry-level thing. Intellectual honesty. Spiritual honesty, of course, is prime, but intellectual honesty is the basest thing, which I don't think you have, Jeff. I'm sorry. Because intellectual honesty, you would say the Jews of the first century pierced him. Not just the Jews. Netanyahu did not pierce Jesus. At least, I have to give you marks there. You have given half an answer. Good job. The Jews of the first century and the Romans. And the Romans who put nails in the hands of Jesus, literally. Roman soldiers. Roman soldiers pierced Jesus in the hands, in the feet, and on the side. It was Roman soldiers. So don't just say the Jews. Be intellectually honest, bro. The Jews of the first century cried out, crucify him. The Sanhedrin of the first century sentenced Jesus to death and demanded Pilate must carry out the sentence because they were not allowed to. So it is a collective indeed. So Jeff Cunningham, what does Revelation 1:7 say? Every eye will see him. Even, the word even in Old English means particularly, specifically, those who pierced him. So the Romans of the first century and the Jews of the first century must be in the crowd that sees Jesus returning. Must be. Not optional. Not optional. The verse requires it. The verse requires it. So how can you honestly say that didn't happen? You would have to be the biggest liar that I've ever met. You would have to be the most deluded person I have ever laid eyes on. Wow. I am not confusing Revelation 1:7 with Matthew 24. I am reading Revelation 1:7. It's on the screen, bro. It's on the screen. It says, even those who pierced him. And then it says, the other comment you made, all the tribes of the earth. Surely you have done your own Greek studies, Jeff, and you know that the word earth here is not the planet Earth. Rather, it is the Greek word geis, which always refers to the land. In Hebrew, it will be translated eretz, the haaretz. Come on. You have done some studies, Jeff. Come on. All the tribes of the land. That's what it means. Does it say all the tribes of the land will wail on account of him in Revelation 1:7? It does. Does it say the same in Matthew 24? It does. Idos, do, adia. Here it is. It says in verse number 30, then will appear in heaven the sign of the Son of Man, and then all the tribes of the gays will mourn. Same passage. And they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Oh my goodness. So Jeff says it hasn't happened. Yes, I know Greek. It can mean earth. It can never mean the planet. Nowhere does the Bible ever refer to the planet. The idea of planet had not even been thought of by the biblical writers. The Greeks had thought of it, had postulated it, but they thought that people can only live on the northern hemisphere and that the whole world consisted of what they knew about. Anyway, Jeff, I've told you, take a ticket. I'm not going to be distracted, but because you are just a distraction. Let's continue here with Sean. So Sean says this could not have happened. Clearly, he has not done his studies. Those that pierced him, Jeff, Romans and Jews must see him. It has happened. It happened. Moreover, the tribes that are mourning in Matthew 24, verse number 30, and the tribes that are mourning in Revelation 1:7, all of these are being derived from Zechariah chapter number 12. That's the source material. In Zechariah chapter number 12, we are told this is an oracle concerning Israel. Then it begins to say, behold, I'm about to make Jerusalem a cup of staggering to all the surrounding peoples. This is in the future of Zechariah. The siege of Jerusalem will also be against Judah. Then it says in verse number 10, context, I will pour out on the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem a spirit of grace and pleas for mercy, so that when they look on me, on him whom they have pierced, they shall mourn for him as one mourns for an only child, and weep bitterly over him as one weeps over a firstborn. On that day, the mourning in Jerusalem will be as great as the mourning for Hadad-Rimmon in the plain of Megiddo. The land, there it is, the land shall mourn, each family by itself. The family of David by itself, the wives by themselves, the family of the house of Nathan by itself, their wives by themselves, and the family of Levi by itself, and their wives by themselves. All these families no longer exist because there is no way to tell which tribe a person belongs to today. All the records were burnt in 70 AD. So did God fight for the Jews as Zechariah says? Of course he did. Because you don't understand what he's talking about. You don't know how to divide the word of God. This passage is about two Jerusalems, Jeff. I'm not going to waste too much time with you, but just know there are two Jerusalems. Paul tells you there are two Jerusalems. So when he says he's fighting for Judah, which Judah do you think he's fighting for? Which Judah do you think Jesus fights for? Go and read Galatians chapter 4. Then let's meet after that. Going back to Sean, who is just as clueless as Jeff Cunningham. It's a shame. I'm sorry.
Once again, Jesus did not return in 70 AD. Reason number 9. In verse 29, Jesus said that immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun would be darkened, the moon would not give off its light, and stars shall fall from heaven. Once again, we have no record of these cosmic signs happening anywhere immediately after the war in 70 AD.
Oh my goodness. This is such a... It feels like such a waste of time. But that's because I've kind of gone through it many times. But it's not a waste of time for a person who is coming into studying these things. So I'll give him I'll give him the space. Now, immediately after the tribulation of those days, which of course was in 66, the tribulation started in 66 AD, and the tribulation ended in December of 69 AD. The tribulation lasted for the first 3 years of the conflict. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun is darkened, the moon does not give its light, the stars flow from heaven, the powers of heaven are shaken. What does that even mean? First and foremost, what does Nero have to do with it, Jeff? Nero has nothing to do with this. The Great Tribulation is not the tribulation of Romans or Nero. Clearly, you do not even know my position. So maybe the first thing would be to establish what my position is. For me, the beast is not Nero. The Romans are not the beast. Had you known that, would you ask that? Was Nero the man? Of course, Nero was not the man of lawlessness. That is ridiculous. Why would you even say that? Jeff, no, Titus is not. Can you go and find out my position before you come to challenge me? Do the mature thing, bro. I have a YouTube channel which you have access to, which you can look at all the things that I teach. You can send me an email. The information is at the bottom of the screen. You can ask me all these questions, then come to challenge me. Stop wasting my time, bro. I'm busy. Okay? Busy. That's a distraction. You don't want me to teach the people the truth. Of course, preterists believe that the beast was destroyed in 70 AD. So go find out what I know and teach the beast to be, since you don't know what I believe. Because I want to answer the questions that I'm dealing with here, Jeff, and you are being a distraction. And so I am going to have to ask you to leave, because you're just being a distraction. Can you please just leave my broadcast until you have taken the time to be a mature, adult, bearded man? Because when I come to challenge you, Jeff, I will first of all find out what you believe. I'll find out what you claim. Then I will challenge that. I will not act like a toddler on your side. Okay? Rome is not the beast at all. Clearly, you don't know what my position is. I will not answer any other questions from you, Jeff. In fact, I am going right now to ban you from the stream. How about that? Because you're just being a distraction. That's childishness. A whole adult man. Seriously. It's ridiculous. So, anyway, this man that I'm dealing with here, Sean, says that the tribes of the earth and the sun and the moon and the stars could not have happened in 70 AD. Well, first of all, that's all right. You can challenge me if you like, Jeff. I accept your challenge. But first, talk to me on email or on text message outside of now. Show your quality. Because you found me in the midst of a particular thing that I'm doing. Show your quality. That way I can consider to actually debate you. But if you are showing me dishonor and chaos even before you challenge me, I have to think about it. Show your wisdom. Show your quality. Okay? Is that fair enough? Show your quality. See, I'm aware of you, Jeff, but you've not found me coming to your site and just doing all sorts of things. So now listen. Look at these guys. He says, I don't honor heretics, but he challenges me. Why then? Why challenge a heretic? Why challenge a heretic? Since you don't honor heretics like me, you're not worthy of my time. He's blocked now. He will not be able to be seen on my broadcast anymore. He's just taking up the time. So anyway, let's get back to Sean. So Sean says, sun, moon, and stars did not take place in 70 AD. That betrays the fact that Sean does not even know what sun and moon and stars refer to, because he is interpreting these things carnally and without context. What are the sun and the moon and the stars in Matthew 24:29? Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars will fall from heaven. What is that meaning? This is symbolic, Hebraic, idiomatic terms that refer, according to the Bible itself, to the nation of Israel. Genesis 37 establishes this. Genesis 37 from verse number 9 says, then he dreamed another dream, told it to his brothers, saying, behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars were bowing down to me. But when he told it to his father and to his brothers, his father rebuked him, saying, what is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow ourselves to the ground before you? So the signs of the sun and the moon and the stars are used throughout the Old Testament to refer to leaders in a nation. They are not referring to the actual sun or to the actual moon in the sky. In the same way, in Revelation 12, the woman who is clothed with the sun and the moon is under her feet and she has a crown of 12 stars. That's not the physical sun or the physical moon or the physical stars. Those are symbols for covenantal leaders within the old covenant system. So Matthew 24 is simply saying that the covenantal leaders of Israel were going to be snuffed out of existence. They were going to be taken down. They were going to be demoted. They were going to be scattered. That's what Matthew 24 is talking about. And indeed, when you look at Matthew 24 and the temple, what happened in Matthew 24 in 66 to 70 AD? The political leaders of Israel ceased to be political leaders of Israel. The temple leaders, the Pharisees and Sadducees, ceased. All of that system ended exactly as that text says. Next, we continue with his next reason.
Reason number 10. In verse 30, we're told that after those previous things happen, then the Son of Man would appear in the sky and everyone would see him. This would have been a worldwide event that many would have written about. So to think this actually happened in 70 AD is completely illogical.
Is it though? Is it completely illogical though? If it did happen, somebody would have written about it, right? Somebody would have written about it. Surely, if these things did happen, as is being claimed, surely somebody would have written about it. So let's see. Did anyone write about these things? Go with me here to Google AI. And I typed in Google AI 7 signs in 66 AD. According to the first century historian Josephus, who is not a Christian, 7 miraculous omens occurred around 66 AD, which is when the Great Tribulation began, signaling the impending destruction of Jerusalem and the temple by Rome. This included a star or a comet shaped like a sword over the city, a bright light around the altar at night, a heifer giving birth to a lamb, and the massive eastern gate opening on its own. The 7 signs are: 1. A star resembling a sword. A comet described as a sword or a star hovered over Jerusalem for a year. Light around the altar during Passover in 66 AD. A bright light shone around the altar and the house for half an hour, appearing as if it was in the middle of the day, in the middle of the night. Then a heifer, that is a cow, a female cow, being led to be sacrificed at the temple, brought forth, gave birth to a little one of a sheep, a lamb, in the middle of the temple. Number 4, the heavy eastern gate of the temple, of the inner court, was made of brass that required 20 men to close it, opened by itself. Chariots in the cloud. Josephus reports that before sunset, it was not at night, before sunset, chariots and armed battalions were seen in the clouds maneuvering around the city. Number 6, voice in the temple. The priests felt a quaking, an earthquake, and they heard a great noise followed by a sound of a multitude crying out, "Let us remove hence, let us leave this place." They heard this voice. All the 24 priests that were in the temple reported this. These are not Christians. These are Jews. Jesus, the son of Ananus, a countryman named Jesus, began crying, a voice from the east, a voice from the west, a voice against Jerusalem and the holy house, daily for 7 years, for over 7 years actually, starting in 62 AD until he was killed during the siege in 66 to 70 AD. These events are recorded, shown by Josephus in the Jewish War, and are commonly interpreted by many as the fulfillment of signs surrounding the end of the Jewish age, often linked to the Olivet Discourse in Matthew chapter 24. So Sean says this. Let me go back here to what Sean says. Sean says,
would see him. This would have been a worldwide event that many would have written about. So to think this actually happened in 70 AD is completely illogical.
Obviously, Mr. Sean did not even do any amount of research. Not even any. How can you make a video and not even attempt? As a Christian, that is shameful in my view. Forgive me, but I just think it's shameful. It's just shameful. What about this one? He said this would have been recorded, right? Look at this one. Are you guys familiar with this one? Hegesippus, who is called Pseudo-Hegesippus, he's often associated with Ambrose of Milan, records a dramatic supernatural event around 66 AD, preceding the fall of Jerusalem, where, quote, a tremendous figure appeared in the clouds alongside heavenly chariots and battle arrays. This account describes aerial battles in the air, and glowing, miraculous, or apocalyptic phenomena that many witnessed. Description of the sign. The figure seen, as recorded by Hegesippus in the 2nd century, around the same time as Irenaeus. The figure was seen was reportedly of massive, tremendous size, and was part of a larger apparition that included armed flying battle arrays and chariots maneuvering through the clouds. The context of the event. This account is frequently linked to similar reports in Flavius Josephus's The Jewish War and Tacitus, who is a Roman historian, regarding celestial armies seen before Jerusalem's destruction. The nature of the phenomenon. The account is viewed as a mixture of historical documentation of a strange event and apocalyptic metaphorical language. The historical significance. These testimonies, including those found in Pseudo-Hegesippus, are often used to illustrate the chaotic and foreboding atmosphere in Judea before the Roman destruction of the temple. So these are things found in records. I'm not making them up. I pulled them up on Google. I didn't even have to go to a library. I didn't have to buy a book. Sean, come on. Do better. Even you who are watching me, if you want to refute something, whatever it is, even if it's Islam or demonology, do better. Show your quality. Show that you are actually willing to do some legwork. Come on. Seriously. Seriously, seriously. Now, got a couple more comments here that I want to honor. Obviously, I will ignore everything that Jeff Cunningham was trying to do here. Father's Joy, good friend. It seems like the problem for futurist Christians is not being able to connect the new covenant, God's kingdom, and Jesus' parousia. I never made the connection until I came across Preterism. Yes, that is the general problem, but the greater problem is that their teachers are either unwilling to do the homework, to do the research without bias, or once they find out, they are willing to delude their people and to keep pressing them not to look into this evidence, like Jeff Cunningham was trying to do here a few minutes ago. JTech says, I have to go, Steve, but thank you. You're a blessing. Thank you so much. You're also a blessing. Father's Joy also says, those are all one event, but the mainstream church teaches otherwise. It's like the conventional medical system, focusing on parts versus holistic medicine, looking at the whole body. Excellent, excellent example there, Father's Joy. Now let's finish what Sean has to say here. Let's finish what Sean has to say here, right? So I'm going to pick it up from where he's at and finish. I'm going to let him speak for the next two objections, and then I'm going to answer them together, then we are done.
Reason number 11 is in verse 31, and that Jesus would send his angels to gather the elect from the four corners of the earth. Why would anyone believe this actually happened in 70 AD? That all Christians were gathered at that time? How did the church grow if there were no more Christians left in 70 AD? And the 12th reason is in the next couple of verses, where Jesus says that the generation that sees all those things happen would know his return was near. Nobody in 70 AD saw all those things happen. And therefore, based on this and the previous reasons, preterism cannot possibly be true. So,
I hope that I've shown over this series of responses that I've made to Sean, who I take to be a fellow Christian, but who I take to be a lazy Christian who has attempted to refute something that he clearly did not study. So, Sean, do better. I've shown evidence, written evidence, biblical evidence, external evidence that all these things did take place. So let's begin with the first one. How is it that the trumpet was blown and the angels gathered the saints of God from the four corners of the earth? Number one, when Jesus came back in 70 AD, Matthew is using the symbolic language of the Old Testament. Trumpets, like Isaiah 58, blow the trumpet in Zion. Joel chapter 2, sound the alarm. This is symbolic language. It's not actually talking about a literal trumpet, first of all. It is using symbolic language to express historical activities. So, how did the angels gather the elect? We are not told that they gathered the elect and then it ended. Rather, that was the beginning of the gathering of the elect into Christ. So, from 70 AD, Sean, you should know, the Church of Jesus Christ, once the temple fell, the Church of Jesus Christ became distinguished and separated from Judaism for the first time. And since 70 AD, the Church of Jesus Christ has gathered elect people from all tribes, nations, tongues, and languages from the four corners of the planet, if the planet had four corners. That's just symbolic language also. The planet doesn't have four corners, it's not square. But the gathering into Christ, rather than the gathering into the old covenant temple, began to be consummated and fulfilled in 70 AD when Christ came back. We are part of that gathering that will continue forever and ever. So Matthew 24:31 continues. It's the beginning of the gathering of the saints. That's one. Secondly, you say that in Matthew 24:34, Jesus says that the generation that sees all those things. That's not what Jesus says. Jesus actually says, truly I say to you, this, THIS, this generation will not pass away until all these things have taken place. Well, what are all these things? You start with verse number 2. Truly I say to you, there will not be left a stone here that will not be thrown down. That's the first thing that must be seen in the same generation. A generation in the Bible is 40 years. Futurists like Tommy Ice agree. And it wouldn't matter if they didn't agree, because the Bible does say it's 40 years. So did the generation that existed in Jesus' time see the temple destroyed such that not a single stone remained on top of another? Yes. But Matthew 24:34 says that all the things detailed in Matthew 24 must all be seen in the same generation. Look, truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. All of them. So the temple that was destroyed in 70 AD is the first sign. Everything else must be seen within the same generation. Otherwise, Jesus is a false prophet. So you have to choose one. Either the temple was destroyed in 70 AD, according to Jesus' prophetic word in verse number 2, which necessitated the question in verse number 3, or Jesus lied and Jesus is a false prophet. You claiming that these things have not happened, you are making Jesus a false prophet. You are making Jesus a false teacher. You are making Matthew a false teacher. You are making John, who said that they were in the last hour in 1 John chapter 2, a false prophet. You are making James in chapter number 5, who says that the judge was standing at the door at that time, a false prophet. I think you do not realize that you're doing that. I think you're not doing that maliciously. Therefore, I challenge you to actually go back to the drawing boards. Use my video as your refutation point. Challenge me. I don't mind. I consider you to be a brother, and we can challenge one another as brothers. But we have to honor each other. I hope that I've honored you. I've played your whole video many times over so that everybody had everything you said. I hope that I've dealt with it with a gracious spirit, not a malicious spirit. I do disagree with you. I do say you are wrong. I do say you didn't do your homework. I believe I'm saying those things with a spirit of grace. So, there is my reasoning to show that full preterism is not a heresy. Rather, it is called a heresy by those people who have not done their homework. So, I'm going to read one more comment here. Actually, I already read that comment, so I don't need to read it again. So I want to thank all of you for taking the time. I might do part number 5, in which now I will not be dealing with Sean, but rather I will just be going ahead and summarizing why preterism is not a heresy. That will be the end of our broadcast for today. 7 o'clock tonight, which is the 14th day of April, 7 o'clock tonight, I have a very special guest in my studio, Pastor Michael Miano, one of the OGs of full preterism. He is a pastor in Blue Point Bible Church in New York, Long Island, New York. He will be coming to speak with us about his role in the upcoming conference that is going to be held in July 8th to 11th in St. Louis, Missouri. Actually, I'm going to play that video as we bring this to an end. So if you want to be a part of that, please join us at 7 p.m. tonight, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, which is in about 3 hours. In about just a little bit less than 3 hours. Join us. It's going to be an awesome time. Pastor Michael is an awesome guy. And you will enjoy him. So join me at that time, whether on Facebook or on YouTube, and we will see each other at that time. God bless you so much. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
In a world of confusion, where timelines collide and prophecy is often misunderstood, a gateway is opening, a gathering unlike any other, where the voices of the prophets echo once again. From July 8th to 11th, 2026, Leaders, teachers, and seekers will converge at the Todd Hall Retreat Center for a journey through the eschatology of the prophets. This is the Gateway to Fulfillment, featuring voices you know and trust. Join Steve Magua, Tim Martin, Michael Miano, Zach Davis, Dr. Don K. Preston, and William Bell Jr., with more to be announced. For 4 unforgettable days, you'll explore the prophetic scriptures, uncover the fullness of God's redemptive plan, and gain a deeper understanding of our fulfilled hope. Seats are limited, so secure your spot now. Register today at the link in the description. Don't just watch prophecy. Step into fulfillment. If you're passionate about biblical truth, like this video and subscribe for more powerful content and conference updates. We'll see you there.